everyone. So there I was, waxing lyrical about how I stand up for everyone else, how I don't do bullies, how I will fight the good fight. And that's true. And there's something I neglected to mention. I didn't stand up for myself when it came to people who mattered, people who were able to harm me. I never stood up for myself. So, family? No, they got to bully me as much as they wanted to. They got to say whatever they wanted to say. They got to do whatever they wanted to do. I didn't defend myself with friends, or those I deemed friends. Whether they deemed me to be their friend or not is neither here nor there. At the end of the day, I would take it on the chin. So until, I don't know, probably the last 6-7 years, I have allowed the people who I thought mattered in my life to run roughshod over me. They have bullied, manipulated, mistreated in every sense of the word. I remember back to when I was working at the bank. I had a female friend who didn't drive, and she would make arrangements with me to go shopping or to go somewhere or do something, and I would plan and work it all out so that I could take her shopping or visiting or wherever it was that we were going. Excuse me. And this female would literally find a better plan and cancel at the 11th hour. Sometimes I would pick up the phone and phone her and say, "Are we going?" And she'd say, "Oh no, my mother's coming to fetch me." There was never any care. I was allegedly a cherished friend for over 30 years. And I say allegedly because at the end of the day, the only time I was ever worth anything to her was when it benefited her, was when I was doing something for her, when I was taking her somewhere, when I was loaning her money. It was always me who was giving to her. I would be included in certain family events, and I suspect for the most part it was a pity invite as opposed to a "I want this person here" invite. But realistically, I was a telephone friend. I was, in the beginning, she used to help me with emotional issues. But as the years have gone on, it's always been her contacting to complain about her life, to ask advice, to let off steam about something that is going fundamentally wrong in her life. But the fun times, the let's go out and have fun somewhere, those dried up over 20 years ago. And last year, now I stopped phoning because I would contact her and then she was in a meeting or she was too busy or she couldn't talk or whatever the case was, she'd phone me when she could. Anyway, last year on my birthday, she deigned to phone me and spoke to me for a few minutes and said, I've just moved house, the movers have arrived, I will phone you on Monday. And I waited. Apparently, I wait. I waited for her to phone. I waited to catch up with somebody who I didn't actually believe was a friend anymore, but was curious to see whether or not this time she would actually pick up the phone and make that call. Approximately 2 weeks later, I blocked her on every single platform. It took her another 4 weeks to realize that she'd been blocked. So 6 weeks from when she was supposed to have contacted me, she realized I had blocked her. And she didn't realize because she realized because her father had asked. And she promptly sent me a very rude email telling me what a rubbish I was and how dare I. And I replied to her saying I was just exiting because why must I continually wait around for somebody? You know, this person left South Africa and moved to the UK a number of years ago. And when she eventually came back to Joburg the first time, she made probably 4 different arrangements for me to come and see her. And every day, on the day, she cancelled. When she got back to the UK, she phoned me to tell me all about how much fun she had had with her friends while she was in South Africa, how much she'd enjoyed her visit to South Africa. And I thought, gosh, that seriously hurts, because all I really wanted was to catch up with my friend of nearly 30 years at that stage. And she couldn't make the time to spend 1 hour with me. 1 hour. She was in South Africa for over a month. You know, if she'd been here for a week or 2 weeks, I would have understood. She was in South Africa for over a month. She went away on weekends, away with friends. She went to parties. She did all sorts of things. I got to hear all about all the fun she had. But she couldn't make 1 hour. And after I blocked her, she had the absolute cheek to tell me that I was one of her cherished friends. And I thought, gosh, if that's how you treat people you cherish, I would hate to see how you treat people who you don't like, because I didn't feel cherished. So, yeah, I've been sucking it up from people who showed me any form of kindness or any form of acceptance, because I wanted them to like me, because I didn't want to be left out, because I wanted to be included, because I wanted to be a part of something. And I sort of liked those people. I trusted them. I went the extra mile for them. I bent over backwards for them. And the vast majority either criticized or betrayed or abandoned me. I mean, I lent a car to a friend, or what I thought was a friend. I lent her a car because she needed a vehicle for work, and received a speeding fine while she was using that vehicle, where she was doing a ridiculously high speed in a residential area. And yeah, she ended up paying me the money for the fine. But she was absolutely mortified that I dare ask for the money, and that I be annoyed that she was racing my car in residential areas. In fact, racing my car full stop. You know, you lend something from somebody, you treat it with respect. You may not treat your own stuff with respect, but you treat other people's property with respect. Needless to say, the friendship started breaking down, and suddenly I was no longer invited. I was no longer included. In fact, that started happening while she still had the car, because suddenly she didn't need me anymore. Suddenly she'd started making new friends. Suddenly I wasn't good enough. And one day, that was the end of that. I had another friend who had ended up with her car in a panel beating shop. And come, my boy, you see, little womble. I had another friend who ended up with her vehicle at the panel beaters because she'd been driving under the influence and had damaged her vehicle. And she desperately needed a car. She was a salesperson. And her car came available. Her car came available on the Friday. And instead of bringing my car back to me, she left my car at the panel beaters while she fetched her car and went out partying and jolling and doing her thing. On the Monday, she brought the car back, and the front headlight was damaged. And as she pulled into the driveway, I said to her, I didn't lend the car to you with a damaged front headlight. No, you did. Anyway, she paid the damage, and suddenly I became a great pariah, and she never spoke to me again. And that is the type of friendships that I've had in my life, where people stick around while they're benefiting and then drop me like a hot potato as soon as it becomes inconvenient, as soon as I can't benefit them anymore, as soon as I stop continually giving everything. That is how my life has gone. And I never defended myself. Those people leaving hurt me. It really hurt me. I currently have two friends. One who I see regularly, who speaks to me regularly. I spend time regularly. As for the rest, yes, there are people who communicate with me. I do have a friend who's a distance away. But at the end of the day, I am on my own. I don't have anyone who has my back. And I've stopped allowing people to abuse me. I've stopped allowing people to say hideous things to me that I just take on the chin. In the past 2 years, I have walked away from more people than I care to mention, because I've finally started valuing myself. I've finally started seeing that if someone is constantly telling you how shit you are, they don't like you. They don't like you. They're just abusing you. If someone is constantly telling you about, oh, I went to lunch with this one and I went to lunch with that one, and you contact them, and they're too busy, let them be too busy forever. You know, one gets to a point with people where constantly being verbally abused because I care about you is not because I care about you. It's because I'm a horrible person and I need to put you down. I need to put you down. So I'm going to tell you what a piece of rubbish you are. And eventually one gets to the point where you turn around and say, enough, I'm walking away. And I have been walking away because I have let myself down spectacularly. I have allowed people who I thought cared about me bully me. You know, I never could stand up to my parents. I was terrified of my father. He was an enormous man, comparatively speaking. I mean, I'm finely built. I'm a small lady, woman, female. He was a big man. He had a great big booming voice. He would yell at the top of his lungs. My mother was, she was acid. So, no, I never stood up against them. I never stood up against any of my siblings. My now dead brother, I didn't speak to for over 20 odd years because I didn't like the way he treated me, and I just decided, frankly, I don't care. My sister, the last communication I had with her was probably 4 years ago. She too had betrayed me and not taken any ownership of it. The only one I had spoken to was the second oldest brother, the one who has betrayed me spectacularly and who has financially ruined me. And the only reason I have had to deal with him is because he is part of the company that my father created. And I have had to deal with him. Otherwise, I would have absolutely nothing to do with him. In fact, realistically, I only want to hear one thing, and that is whether he's dead or alive. Preferably dead, so that I know I can stop looking over my shoulder and guarding my back. So, yeah, up until a few years ago, I didn't defend myself. From a work perspective, yeah, I would defend myself. From a work perspective, if it had something to do with a store or some other event that had a legal basis or an ethical grounding, I would defend myself. But at the end of the day, those people didn't have any power over me in terms of creating an exclusion, turning me into an outsider. So I never fought back. I never fought back. I fought back against people, organizations, companies who didn't have a personal affiliation, a personal ability to harm me. That is what I fought against. So, yeah, no, I wasn't this avenging knight running around defending the weak and saving the weak. I was more of a paper tiger, I suppose, because I would defend you with what is right. I would defend you with the law. I would stand up for what was right. Unless, of course, it involved me and I wanted you to like me. So if I wanted you to like me, you could literally treat me as if I was a piece of shit at the bottom of your shoe. And I would allow you to stomp all over me. And it's ridiculously sad that I get to this age in my life and I look back and I realize I am alone. Nobody actually had my back. Nobody actually cared. The people I've walked away from in the last 2 years haven't bothered to try and keep me. They haven't bothered to show me that they care. They have literally thrown me away. They've literally thrown me away. And for me, that's not an avenging knight. For me, I'm not anything spectacular. I'm just a human being trying to navigate a world that isn't particularly nice most of the time. A world where people lie for their own benefit. A world where people gaslight you, manipulate you. Gosh, if I were to tell you about the gaslighting I've been through with so-called friends, and then they act surprised when I eventually look at them and think, I don't want to have you in my life. When I look at one person decided I would become part of her family. And when one of the most, how would I put it without being favorites, my soul kitty, when my soul kitty, who I adopted, or I had adopted 9 years prior, this little kitty had his heart herniated on his chest. He was predominantly feral. He trusted me. He didn't like anybody else. if I needed a burglar alarm, or it's a thing in South Africa, we have burglar alarms, because people break in. I didn't need one because this little kitty knew before anyone even entered the property. He would react. In fact, he alerted me to a burglary. The dog slept through it. This little kitty woke me up. And he was my soul kitty. He really was. He was a very special little boy. And when push came to shove and his heart was in full failure, I received a message from this person negating one of the most fundamental losses in my life. She negated it. And when I retaliated, she attacked me because apparently I was rude. Apparently it's rude to send a WhatsApp message to somebody who's allegedly your sister. I put that in inverted commas. I would with my hands, but fortunately they're holding a kitty. She claimed to be my sister and couldn't pick up the telephone and phone me and speak with me after the passing of an animal who the vet thought would live for 6 months. He lived for 9 years. He lived for 9 years. He was the most incredible little kitty. So, yeah, I've had my feelings thrown around. I've been negated. I've been treated like dirt. I've been manipulated. As long as I have done for others, I have been good enough. As long as I have been bending over backwards to drive somebody from pillar to post, to loan somebody my car, to take somebody somewhere, to lend somebody money, to accompany somebody somewhere because they don't want to go on their own. As long as I have been that person who you can contact at the drop of a hat, at the 11th hour, as long as I've been that person, I've been good enough. And now I find myself very lonely because I don't do that anymore. I'm not begging anybody to acknowledge and accept me. I'm not begging anybody to welcome me into their life. If they don't want me to be a part of their life, that's okay. I can be alone. I can be alone. And ultimately, there's only one person I have to answer to, and that is me. So, yeah, I still don't know where I'm going. I still don't know what my purpose is. I do know that the last 7, 8 years have been probably the hardest. In fairness, I had 18 months of the happiest time of my entire life inside there. But there too, I ended up being at the bottom of the totem pole, not being considered, not being included, not being asked, and ultimately being thrown away, ultimately not being good enough and being discarded like a piece of trash. So yeah, I need to unpack all of this, and I need to figure out where I'm going. What am I going to do for the remainder of my life? What is going to make me happy on my own for the remainder of my life? Because I don't know that I will end up with any form of partner. The last person who promised me forever threw me away. The friends, well, they're friends. They get married, they have families, they have lives. They do what they need to do. So ultimately, I need to figure out what the purpose is for me and where I am going with my life and how I am going to end my life. And I know that realistically one plans for one's old age when one is young. And up until recently, I don't know, about 7 years ago, I had a plan. I had savings. I had bought property. And I discovered then that it doesn't matter how well you plan, as long as there is a thief in your midst, whether they are related to you by blood or not, you can and probably will lose absolutely everything. So now I'm in the position where I need to figure out how I'm going to end my life. I don't want to end up on the street, or as we call it in South Africa, in a squatter camp. I certainly don't want to end in government housing or a government retirement home or old age home or whatever the hell you want to call it. I expect I won't have a family to look after me. I suspect the only reason I would have said family would be because they expect money. And before I go, I want to leave you with an irony. The hideous brother who bankrupted me was the sole beneficiary to my entire estate. And at that stage, the liquid assets were worth close to 9 million rand on my death. And at this stage, I have a clause in my last will and testament that states if he even tries to make a claim on absolutely anything that belongs to me, and this includes a used tissue, my executors are to raise a fraud charge against him. That is what he threw away because he decided he would destroy my life. So, yeah, unfortunately, these nasty people have got short-term plans and they think they'll get away with it. And yeah, maybe they do. Maybe they do. I'm not bitter about it anymore. You noticed I said anymore. But I will never, ever share anything with that individual ever again. Not ever again. He will not benefit from my existence in any shape, form, or size whatsoever. Anyway, I just thought I would update and amend my I'm the Avenger of Bullies. Yeah, if it's you being bullied, I'll fight for you. If it's some arbitrary person on the street being bullied, I'll fight for you. If it's a bunch of other people, I'll fight for them. Now, if it's me, I'll fight for me. Up until a year ago, I would take it on the chin. I would take it on the chin because I honestly believed I wasn't worth anything to anybody. And that whatever was dished out, I deserved. And when somebody insulted me, it was true. And when somebody didn't include me, it was because I wasn't good enough. And I deserved to be excluded. Anyway, slowly we unpack. Slowly we figure it out. I don't know where this is going. I don't know if I'm going to be able to heal my heart and mind. I hope I can. I hope one day I learn how to smile again. Who knows, maybe it'll happen on a video. Then I'll have evidence that it actually happened. Have a great day.